Ladies and gentlemen, it has been quite amazing watching Democrats blow what really should have been an easy path to victory heading into November. But because of the horrendous leadership of the Democratic establishment, figures like Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, who have allowed the Socialist wing to take over their party, Democrats have managed to squander nearly every advantage they had. And now they have a real fight on their hands, not only against Republicans, no, but also inside their own party, where establishment Democrats are increasingly being pushed aside by socialists. And everything that should have been relatively simple for Democrats is now falling apart. And so we do have a lot to get into. As always, if you are enjoying the content, make sure you smash the thumbs up. That's the best way you can let me know. Subscribe to stay locked in with future videos. And shout out to everybody who watches to the end. You know, I appreciate every single one of you. Let's go ahead and start right over here, ladies and gentlemen. So we got to get into this first clip. This is the DSA co-chair, national co-chair. Her name is Megan Romer. She sat down with Fox News, and in this interview, you're going to hear a bunch of stuff. And I said this before, the more you listen to these people talk, the more you realize this is how bad the establishment Democrat Party, this is how lost they were. They had no platform. They had nothing they could run on besides stop Trump. And so this is why they are currently in the position they are right now, where their party has been ransacked, taken over. It's the new sheriff in town. They're in the back seat, hoping to hitch a ride. But this is why, when you listen to these people talk, they are out of their mind. And somehow they are winning primaries against establishment Democrats. But let's go through this. Take a listen.
Okay, so we're going to put up on the screen a few of the things that are part of your platform, and I want to ask you, just give me sort of a true or false on these. Abolish the Senate.
True.
Okay, replace the presidency and Supreme Court as we now know them.
Yep.
Abolish ICE.
Absolutely.
Abolish borders and give amnesty to anyone currently in the U.S. illegally.
As a long-term plan, yep.
Defund the Pentagon.
Absolutely.
Abolish prisons, at least in large part.
Yeah, again, that as part of a long-term program, yeah.
Okay, so no prisons. Government or public ownership of most large corporations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so then let's go back through some of those then. Abolish the Senate. There are people who are in the Senate now who are very supportive of DSA. They lose their seats?
Well, the Senate is an anachronistic institution. It comes from the British House of Lords. It is made to protect power for, you know, the Senate was part of the system that was made to make sure that the people didn't have too much of a say. So we want to expand Congress significantly, but make it a unicameral legislature.
Okay, and without the presidency and Supreme Court, so abolish ICE, would there be any enforcement of immigration laws, or with abolishing the border, we're not enforcing immigration laws, they go away?
Yeah, so again, this is part of this longer term plan, and part of it
But if you
includes,
can get there.
Yeah, I mean, if we can get to the place where the U.S. is not destabilizing countries in order to mine them for resources, there will be significantly less migration.
What do you say to those, though, that would potentially destabilize the U.S.? Because there's only so much the economy can bear, and when you have a flood of people coming in, it might not work out economically, according to a lot of analyses, if you just open up the borders and there's no enforcement at all.
Well, we're not saying open the borders tomorrow. We're saying rebuild an economy and a society that works for everyone. And the open borders is part of a longer-term international plan that involves us stopping destabilizing countries. Most people who are coming to this country are coming as economic refugees, and we destabilized their country. We did that.
Okay, so her logic is America's the one who created all the problems around the globe where these people are fleeing their country to come here. Therefore, America has to solve the problems around the globe. That's her logic. Now, I don't agree with it, but I'm just trying to cover the bases here. That's what she's trying to argue. Now, that doesn't make any sense, because in some instances, you have had countries who have been at each other's throat longer than America has been around, 250 years. And they still can't get it right. You have countries that have levels of corruption that make American political corruption look like child's play. And they still can't get it right. But somehow America's liable. Okay. This is what I'm talking about with the socialist utopia, where they want to paint this, we are the world, America did all of this, and it's the mentality of America's the big bad wolf, evil empire. They're the ones who are afflicting all the harm around the globe. And so therefore America got to go around and then clean it up and fix everybody else's problem. This is the mentality that these people have. But let's go ahead and jump into this next part, ladies and gentlemen, because right here, this is where the DSA co-chair basically admits that they're using the Democratic Party as a ballot access device. And so while you have establishment Democrats like Hakeem Jeffries going out and talking about how they're a big tent party, you have the DSA. Their message is they're here to take over the Democratic Party. They've said that. They're in competition with the Democrat Party. And that the Democrat Party, just like the Republican Party in their eyes, have let the people down. Therefore, that's why they must step in. That's their agenda. And yet somehow Democrats still haven't got the memo. Or is it just their Trump derangement syndrome hasn't allowed them to? But check this out.
So Jamie Harrison, who was the DNC chair, after you guys had such a big night in New York City and knocking off some of those incumbents and having success with your candidates in the congressional primaries, he said, if you hate the Democratic Party, then don't run for our nomination. Don't use our resources. Don't rely on our volunteers. Don't use our infrastructure. Focus on building the party you actually support. Other Democrats out there saying this is a separate party, the DSA. You don't belong within the party. How do you respond to his statements there?
Yeah, I mean, the two parties have, over years and decades, created a system where ballot line access is extremely difficult for third parties. I also have been told a lot of times by Democrats, don't vote third party, it's wasting your vote. So we run on the Democratic ballot line where it makes sense. We run independents sometimes where that is a viable possibility, but it's a ballot line. And what matters is what the voters think, and the voters are overwhelmingly choosing our candidate.
That does not sound like a big tent party mentality to me. That sounds like individuals who are coming in to take over, to remove those who have been in power and put their people in position instead. That doesn't sound like big tent party at all. Yeah, so now I want to go to Hakeem Jeffries on CNN, and listening to him listening to this guy speak is bad enough. But listen to him speak on this occasion. You understand exactly why the DSA, exactly why they are able to go around and say, yeah, we're here to actually put our people into positions in the Democratic Party. We're just using them because of the Democratic leadership, AKA Hakeem Jeffries. And so take a listen to this.
Here with me now is the House Democratic leader, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. Mr. Leader, thank you so much for being here. I know that you are launching what Democrats are calling 100 Days Out weekend of action, with more than 400 grassroots events in competitive states, including Pennsylvania, where you're going to be speaking later today. At the same time, your party is fighting over whether the path back to the majority runs through the center or the activist left, who want to defund the police, abolish ICE, end aid to Israel, open borders. I know that you call the Democratic Party a mosaic, but are you going to push any of those positions if you win the majority back?
Well, what unites the party, and certainly what will take place over the next 100 days beginning today, is a focus on us fighting for an affordable America, based on the reality that life in this country is far too expensive, and everybody agrees that that's the dynamic that the country confronts. Too many people are working hard, they're playing by the rules, but they can't thrive and they can barely survive. Not enough food on the table, not enough gas in the tank, unable to actually regularly and consistently afford to pay the rent or pay the mortgage. We want to drive down the cost of groceries, drive down and lower the cost of gasoline, drive down the cost of housing, and also make sure that health care is affordable for every single American.
Right. But to do those things, which is the messaging that I've heard you say, especially recently, you need to come up with policy proposals. So will those policy proposals be in line with what some of the more progressive members who keep getting elected are pushing, or will you sort of move more towards the moderate area where if you do win the majority, it will be likely because they pick up swing districts?
Well, we want to make sure that we are solving problems on behalf of the American people. And that's in every possible area. It is clear that what unites Democrats, for instance, we forcefully have been pushing back against the one big ugly bill and the effort to enact the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. That's a disgrace, and clearly that needs to be reversed. We need to make sure that we do things like extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits so that more than 20 million people actually can have health care that they can afford restored to them, as opposed to the situation that they confront right now because of MAGA extremist policies, which is that they've experienced dramatic increases in their health insurance premiums, in some cases more than $1,000 per month. It certainly is the case, as we've already demonstrated unanimously on the House floor, that we need to stop this reckless and costly war of choice that has skyrocketed gas prices on everyday Americans. And we need to stop the Trump tariffs, which have increased costs on everyday Americans by thousands of dollars per year.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is why the Democrats lost control of their party and why the Socialists took over. Hakeem freaking Jeffries can't answer a question. I mean, for everything that you get on the Socialists about, you know what? I'm going to give them some credit. At least they are able to stand on their bad ideas. They're bad ideas. They are. But they will stand on them. They will articulate them and let you know this is what we're going to do. This is what we want to do, and this is how we're going to go about doing it when we get power, if we get power. They're letting you know. They're not holding back. Matter of fact, I just showed you the clip before. They're actually being more vocal now about what they plan to do, no matter how deranged and crazy their ideas are. But Hakeem Jeffries, no. What does Hakeem Jeffries continue to do? She asked him one question. He somehow doesn't answer that, no. Then redirects it back to what? Stop Trump. That's the default setting. Stop Trump. And reverse things. So he wants to reverse everything. He said he wants to bring back the Affordable Care subsidies, the tax credit, the subsidies basically on Obamacare. That did not make healthcare more affordable. Didn't do it. Healthcare was not affordable with the subsidies. That's why you had them. Because Obamacare failed at making healthcare affordable. He wants to go back to 9% inflation. He wants to reverse everything that President Trump is doing, which basically means he wants to take you back to a Biden era economy. Yeah, and so now with that being said, let's go ahead and jump ahead. Take a listen to this and how he responds with being confronted about the 6,600 illegal non-citizens who were registered to vote in the state of New Jersey. Listen to this, ladies and gentlemen.
Your next door neighbor, New Jersey, just disclosed that 6,600 non-citizens were mistakenly registered to vote there from 2023 to 2024. 400 of them actually voted in elections since then. It is a small number compared to the 7 million voters in New Jersey, and there's no evidence that that swayed any election. But this is one of the most significant disclosures of non-citizen registration. Now, Democrats have repeatedly said that non-citizen voting doesn't happen. It happened. Is this a problem?
I think that I continue to have confidence in state and local authorities in making sure that there's going to be a free and fair election in November. And if modest or minor challenges emerge, such as the one that was disclosed voluntarily by the authorities in New Jersey, that it is immediately corrected. And that's what I expect will continue to happen. Unfortunately, what we've seen from Donald Trump is that in this particular case, Republicans have adopted voter suppression as an electoral strategy because they have failed to actually deliver on making life more affordable for the American people. It was Donald Trump who promised to lower costs on day one, but we know that costs haven't gone down in this country. Costs have gone up. It was Donald Trump, I believe, who said that he was elected not to start wars, endless wars in the Middle East, but to stop them, and then turned around and has gotten us involved in this reckless war of choice in Iran that has skyrocketed gas prices on the American people. By the way, it was Donald Trump who said they were going to love and cherish Medicaid, and then Republicans enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, ripping health care away from more than 14 million Americans. They have nothing to run on. We're going to run on fighting for an affordable America.
Mr. Leader, before I let you go, President Trump ordered signs.
Wow. He really sat there and said the Trump administration doesn't have anything to run on. Democrats do, though, and they're going to make things more affordable once they get back control. That's why the Democrats have been ransacked. The party's been ransacked, taken over. Hakeem Jeffries is riding in the back, trying to hitch a ride and stay on the bus. He's no longer driving the bus. What was the movie with Tom Hanks and the pirates? He is not the captain. The socialists are on the boat and they saying they are the captain now. You better hope they just keep you along for the ride. This is why the Democrat Party is so unlike right now. And so take a look at this. Democrats are historically unpopular. Net approval of Democrats. Take a look at this.
Congress. In late February, at the beginning of the war, it was minus 41 points, minus 39, minus 39. And so you're just looking at these numbers right here, and you go to yourself, no wonder what's going on at this point, that Democrats simply put cannot take the ball and run with it and actually in the polls be trusted more and run, because the Democrats in Congress simply put are not well liked. In fact, these are the three lowest on record in terms of percentage points for the approval for Democrats in Congress. So it all puts together a picture. Donald Trump and Republicans may not be liked, but Democrats in Congress are really hated. A lot of this is Congress. In late February.
Now, mind you, ladies and gentlemen, take those numbers into account while also understanding a vast majority of the negativity gets pointed towards the Republican Party, towards the Trump administration. The Democrat Party, through a media lens, gets treated with kid gloves a lot of times. They get more favorable type of coverage from a majority of the mainstream media news networks. And still, those are the numbers. And so for all of Hakeem Jeffries' constant recycling of the same hashed idea of blame Trump and just, oh yeah, blame Trump, that's exactly why, and we're going to get into this clip right here, a vast majority of Americans don't even believe that Democrats could actually do anything to actually help with the economy, to actually help with the cost of living. They actually would hurt it, according to at least these figures. And so take a listen to this.
But you know what? I would argue the biggest red flag that Democrats have, the biggest red flag, look at this. It's apathy, not believing that Democrats can change anything. Because the impacts of Democratic policies on your cost of living, only 41% say help. Hurt or wouldn't change it? The clear majority, nearly 3 in 5, 59%. So, look, these are all the red flags. If, in fact, Democrats can't take back control of either the House and or the Senate, and if Trump can stop them, this is what's going on.
Yeah, so there you have that. Listen, all things considered, Republicans are in a pretty good space right now. I mean, they can't even get the SAVE Act passed, and so it's not like they've been doing everything to really put themselves in the best position. But with that being said, Democrats have basically sabotaged themselves time after time after time after time. Now that the socialists have taken over, they've gone so far left that they have to keep their fingers crossed and hope that somehow the American people will actually buy into what the radical left, the socialists, are selling. And while, yeah, that may work in some parts of the country, they have to bet that it will work in areas where perhaps they aren't as radical as a New York, a California. And so we'll have to wait and see, obviously, with those battleground states, Michigan, North Carolina, different areas in this country, Georgia, and see how those races turn out when it comes to the House, to the Senate, and you know what happens. Texas has a race going on, and so we'll see. But those are my thoughts in the update. Now I want to hear from you. Drop your comments down below. I appreciate when you guys chime in. Don't forget, you enjoy the content, smash that thumbs up. For more, subscribe to the channel. And as always, until next time.